Hi guys, I'm Corbin and today I'm going to speak to you about my Calathea Orbifolia. I've heard such conflicting information about this plant online, but I've actually found it to be a relatively easy plant to grow if you kind of take into consideration where it comes from. And for this being a rainforest plant, it does have specific rainforest requirements. And I live in Cape Town, South Africa, which is the furthest thing from a rainforest. So the first thing about this plant is that it needs high humidity, and I use a humidifier to increase humidity around my plant, but there is also other ways you can increase humidity around your plant. Like the first way would be with a spray bottle and just spray your plant, but I find that to be a bit ineffective and also time consuming because you really need to spray your plant all the time in order for it to have the same effect that you would get with a humidifier. So the other way that you can increase the humidity around your plant is to use a pebble tray. And all that you do is you have a tray and you fill it with pebbles, and then you pour water into your tray, and as the water evaporates, it increases the humidity around your plant. I have found had to be slightly effective, but for me personally, the best way is still to use a humidifier. I have an inexpensive one that I bought from the pharmacy, but there's also quite a few of them that you can buy online. So it's just whatever your personal preference is. I prefer the cool humidifier over the hot humidifier because the cool humidifier also has a cooling effect around your plants. So with this being a rainforest plant, it grows on the forest floor, so it's sheltered by the forest canopy, so it wouldn't grow in direct sunlight, and that's very important when you want to decide where to place your plant in your home, because this is really a plant that likes medium light conditions and not high light conditions. So I place my plant here in front, where it's more sheltered from the direct sunlight coming in from the back, and the humidity also tends to be a bit higher here in front as opposed to at the back because of the direct sunlight coming in through the window. So for watering, you really want to keep this plant evenly moist, so you don't want it to dry out completely, but you also don't want it to be soggy. You just want it to be in that kind of median conditions where it's constantly moist but not standing in any water. So I water my plants about once a week, and that seems to be fine for it. The other thing also with water is that I've heard that if you use tap water, it can be bad for your plant because of the chemicals that's in the tap water. But for me personally, I haven't found that using tap water has an adverse effect on my plant. I think it depends on your country or region, what chemicals is put into your tap water. But if you are in a region where the water is particularly hard, you can always water your plant with filtered water or distilled water. Also, what's important when you decide when to water your plant is to take into consideration the pot size. So if I take my plant out of the cover pot, you see my plant is in a smallish pot for its size. So it would obviously mean that this pot would dry out a lot sooner than, for instance, a bigger pot. That's also something to keep in mind, is the size of your pot in comparison to the whole plant. So I fertilize my plant with only organic fertilizers, so either a kelp solution or worm castings applied as a top dressing over your media, or I also use a tea made from the worm castings. To keep my plant clean, I place it in the shower about once every 2 weeks, and I just let the water run over the plant, over the leaves, and that takes care of any dust or particles. It also increases the humidity around my plant, so sometimes I'll just let it stay in the shower for a few hours, or I will also, after I've had a shower, I'll put my plant in the shower so it can bask in the steam and be in that high humidity environment. So it seems to be having a positive effect because it is producing new leaves. So I would hope that my shower treatment has had a positive effect on my plant. So as you can see here, there is a new leaf coming out. So yeah, my plant seems to be happy, seems to be enjoying the care that I'm providing it. So there is a thing with Calathea Orbifolia where the edges of the leaves tend to get these brown edges, and I've done some research about it, and there can be multiple factors as to why that is happening, from low humidity from the water that you use, and also sun damage and heat damage. But I found that it's just something that is going to happen. It tends to happen with the older leaves at the bottom, because if I look at my plant, the new leaves tend to be fine, or it doesn't tend to be so pronounced as with the older leaves. So I also think it can be a thing as leaves age, that they kind of die back. So to make your plant look aesthetically more pleasing, all that I normally do is I take a scissor and I simply cut out the brown patch of the leaf. So you trace around the brown edge, and you cut out that part of the leaf. And it doesn't have a detrimental effect on your plant because you're essentially cutting out something that's already dead. So I'm going to show you how I do that. If I just select the leaf, and all that you do is you take your scissor and you basically just trace around the edge. It's almost like being in school again, like cutting out pictures from a newspaper. And just trace that around, and there you go. And then you can do the same on this side. And if you do that all around your entire plant, is that your plant will look a lot neater and more clean. So that's been my Calathea Orbifolia care tips. It's also getting really humid and foggy in here. I'm not sure if you guys can see it on camera, but it's getting quite misty because all the windows and the doors are closed. If you guys have any tips on how you care for your Calathea Orbifolia, please leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear any tips or tricks that you have.